So to start your persuasive essay, the number one thing you want to do for a persuasive essay, guys, is to make sure that, what is your goal? Your goal is to persuade someone to agree with you, okay? You want to convince them to agree with you. Your goal isn't just to state like what your opinion is. Your goal is to make them agree with you, and you want to do whatever it takes to make them agree with you, right? You want to make them agree with you.
Yes, Mrs. Nolan.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to have a clear thesis statement. And we covered thesis statements and where they go. So where does a thesis statement go?
End of intro.
Very good. At the end of the intro, your thesis statement will get plugged in at the end. And now your thesis, let me tell you something a little bit about a thesis statement. A thesis statement has to be debatable. There needs to be someone who would disagree with your thesis statement. Why? Because if you have a persuasive paper and everybody already accepts it as truth, why even write that paper? You have no need to persuade anybody. Right, Steph?
Right.
Right. Mace, do you have a question?
What if you have nobody to argue with, like, with your paragraph?
You mean what if your thesis statement doesn't have people who disagree with it?
Yeah.
Then you want to rewrite your thesis statement. Okay? You want to rewrite your thesis statement because you want to have a thesis statement that not everybody agrees with. Joe, is this a legit question?
Yes.
You have a smile on your face.
It's a legit question.
Okay, go ahead.
Don't you want to hook the people with your thesis statement too?
Well, you want to hook the people with your intro. Your intro does that with the attention grabber. Okay? All right, so we'll talk about that. Okay, so first of all, you're going to want a clear thesis statement. And then secondly, a big thing I really want you to remember when you're writing this paper is that you have to address the counter arguments. What do I mean by counter arguments? What is counter? Opposite. Very good. So you want to address the opposing arguments, okay? People who don't agree with you. Why? Because if you address them and knock them down, then you're going to have a much stronger paper. So you want to address the counter arguments. And here's how you do it. First of all, you know your standard essay, okay? You start with an intro, you move to paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and a conclusion. That's your standard 5-paragraph essay, right? Okay? A persuasive essay follows that same structure, but I want you to do something very specific when you go to writing these paragraphs, okay? And so what I did is I took this and I blew it up over here to break it down, okay? So here's your paragraph. Let's say this is paragraph number 1. You want to start out with, here, I'm going to erase this because I've written over on top of this a lot today. Okay, let's say that this blank space right here is my piece of paper, okay? And these are my lines of where I started writing, okay? Now, why is my first line short? Someone tell me while I'm drawing these.
Because you indent.
Because I indent, because I know the rules and I know that I need to indent, okay? So make sure you don't forget to indent. Now, here's your paragraph for paragraph number 1. I want to start out with the counter argument. Okay, so that means that I'm going to already have identified what my 3 reasons are for why I support something, and then I'm going to start with a counter argument. So you should start with your counter argument here at the beginning. This is your counter argument, and say your counter argument might go for 2 to 3 lines because you're discussing it.
And it's in big font.
No, it would be in your normal font. Okay, after you show that or acknowledge that there is a counter argument, then you want to give your argument. Okay, this is your main point, which is opposing this one. Okay, so if I was doing a paper on recycling is necessary for humans should practice better recycling habits. Okay, let's say that my thesis said something like that. You know, people need to do a better job at recycling. Okay. So I'm going to identify what I think are my 3 main points. And then with my 3 main points, I'm going to come up with a reason that people may have opposing to that. So say my first counter argument would be people saying, recycling takes too much time. It's not worth it. Okay? So I'm going to take that one, and I'm going to start with that counter argument. It doesn't agree with me, but I'm going to start with it. And I'm going to say, some people argue that recycling takes too much time to actually be efficient. Dividing your trash into 7 different barrels simply is not good time management, right? You might start like that. And then, after you introduce the fact that you acknowledge there's another view, then you start with your argument, which would be something like, however, if you actually do the practice of recycling, you will discover that recycling takes very little time if it's done right. And then you go on to explain, okay? So you're knocking down their counter argument, and you're saying what your opinion is. Recycling is actually saving the earth, okay? It's not a waste, it's saving. So you start with the counter, you give your argument, but then not only do you give your argument, you have to give support, okay? Because if you stop your paragraph after this, you have done a good job of presenting your argument. But did you convince anybody? No. You just said what you believe. You didn't give them any reason to believe you, okay? So what you have to do then is the third part of every paragraph is adding support, okay? And there are multiple ways to add support. You could start, these are all ways to add support, okay? When you go to add support, you can use examples. Use your friends, use your grandma, your husband's uncle, okay? Use examples from your daily life as to why this is true. You should say, for example, my grandma Greta has a superb system of recycling in which, all three, the newspapers are here, the cans are here, and whatever, right? Use examples as a way to support yourself. Don't just claim something and then not support it. Examples are just one way to give support. Another way to give the support is called expert opinion. Expert opinion, you could quote anybody who is considered to know a lot about that subject.
Paul.
So you could do, I don't know that Paul would be considered an expert, although he's considered a genius kid. But I don't know that he's necessarily considered an expert, okay? You could maybe use, your science teacher, your math teacher as experts. Or maybe the doctor down the street that your mom is, friends with. Lady doctor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That your mom is friends
I was
with.
like, is that your mom what? Your mom what?
Okay, so use expert opinion, If you can pull anybody who's an expert into the equation, do that. Another method that you can use to support, now remember these are all just ways you want to support your opinion. Appeal to their emotions. If you're talking about recycling, you could say something like, you could appeal to their emotions by saying, yesterday when I walked out to my backyard and found my gray cat strangled by a 6-pack ring
Troll.
thing. What are those things called? What are those things
Paper,
called?
plastic.
Yeah, the plastic rings that a
Can holders.
Can holders?
Popcorn
Okay,
holders.
so when I found my
beer.
cat strangled to death by a 6-pack can holder thing, I don't know what they're called, that's when I knew recycling needs to have, we need to recycle and we shouldn't just be throwing things away like that. Use their emotions. Then they're going to go, oh, poor little kitty, right?
It probably deserved
Some
it.
people.
Maybe. Yeah.
My dad
Oh,
hates
that's mine.
cats.
So you want to appeal to their emotions. Hey, you guys, shh. Appeal to their emotions, and that's called pathos. Okay, and we talked about that. That's just a reminder. That's called pathos. These are tried and true methods of persuasion. Okay, pathos, appealing to their emotions. Or let's say you can't really think of anything that appeals to their emotions for this particular example. So you want to just give them logic. Okay, it's only logical that if we recycle, we do the earth a benefit, right? So go into that. If you are a logical thinker and can put together a pattern of sentences that really guides your reader to a logical conclusion, do that. Give them statistics. Talk about the number of landfills today versus the number of landfills 100 years ago. That kind of thing. Give them logic, statistics, or just facts. Just bring up facts. So that's all a way to support your argument. And that's called logos. Then the fourth way that you can give support to your argument is to appeal to their morals. Make them feel like it's the right thing to do. For multiple reasons. You could appeal to their, it's the right thing to do for your country. It's the right thing to do for you as an individual. There's all kinds of ways you can appeal to what's right and what's wrong, But do all of these. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 different methods here of just ways to give your argument support. Okay? It's really important. Don't stop after you give the counter argument and then your argument. Support it. You can even do examples, from your own personal life. Like if you say, let's say you've changed your topic and now you're talking about the importance of eating breakfast in the morning. If you say that, for example, my my friends don't eat breakfast in the morning, and then go on to prove that. You know, my friend Ellie, I see her every morning and she's starving, and she never gets good grades because of it. But Ellie, I know, you totally get good grades, I'm just totally
Well, I do what I can.
Okay. Okay, so you want to make sure that you give support. Now, all of this, counter-argument first, argument, and support happens in a paragraph. Okay? So now let's leave this and come over here and let's look at how your persuasive paper is going to look as a whole now. So you're going to start out with an intro. An intro always has what? Name it.
A conclusion.
Nope.
Topic sentence.
A thesis statement.
Yeah, but what does it have very, very first?
The
Grabber.
hook.
A grabber. You want an attention grabber.
I said hook.
A hook, also known as hook.
Good one.
Also known as a
It just
lead.
fell out of my pocket.
Okay.
Instead of my
So we have an attention grabber, and then what do we have after the attention grabber?
Points. Your points.
No, not quite. This is in the intro.
I don't remember.
Anybody?
Your reasons, your supportive reasons, what you're talking about?
After you grab their attention, remember the wide part of the funnel?
The vague
Info?
Yeah, background info. Yeah, you want to just build the background, and then end your intro with what?
a thesis
A
statement.
thesis statement. Okay, and I kind of messed up on a little thing here covering it up. Okay, but yeah, in your intro, you always start with an attention grabber, and then you build your background. You know, introduce your topic, build the necessary background, and you end with the thesis statement. Okay. All right, after your intro, and that's your standard intro. It doesn't matter for a persuasive or whatever. Then you want to move into paragraph 1, which starts with what, Joe? What does paragraph 1 start with?
Starts with your first idea.
Not quite. Look
Main
at what we just
idea.
talked about. In a persuasive paper.
Starts with your counter.
Yes. So you want to start with the counter argument.
Over celebration.
After the counter argument, you move into,
Your argument.
yes, your argument, and you follow your argument with
Support.
support, okay? And then that is the whole of your first main point, okay? So if you're wondering, how do I fill up a paragraph about this one point? This is how. Give the counter argument, give the argument, and then give support.
For every single one of them, I thought we only had to do that with one of them.
No, you need to do that with every single one of them.
Really?
Have they changed the writing requirements, or is this always been this way?
For a persuasive paper, this is how you do it, yeah. Because this isn't like a different type of expository essay wouldn't have a counter argument, but a
Do you know
persuasive
the ones we
paper.
had last year were just a regular?
We did descriptive last year,
Yeah.
didn't we?
You guys were ninth graders? No,
I
you
tried
would
for
have
the
done
writing. It didn't work.
Persuasive as well,
Really?
yeah. But we're just kind of improving on what we did last year, too.
Is
Did
it
we
just
not
the
get good-
sophomores
Alright, guys.
that are doing this?
Let's talk about that later, let's keep moving
Did we
along.
not do very good yet last year?
Let's not talk about this now, let's move right along.
Yes,
Okay?
our
Can I
freshies.
have you guys back there in the back be quiet, please? Alright, so you've got your paragraph 1 built just like this. Paragraph 2, guess what? Same thing as above. Paragraph 3, guess what? Same thing as above. But now here's the important part, guys. When you go to create your arguments, do you know what I want you to do? You picked, say, 3 arguments, right? You might have 4, but I'm assuming the majority of you are going to go with 3. Remember, 3 is not a hard and fast rule, but I want you, in a persuasive essay, to save your best argument till last. That means when you go to write your essay, you write your intro, and then you pick out which one of these is your least favorite or your least convincing, and present that one first. Why? Because you want to work from least to greatest, because at the end of your essay, you want to leave your reader with the strongest argument still fresh in their mind. Okay? So that it's part of like going out with a bang in a way, is leaving the reader with the strongest argument. So basically, you want this. See how I have this? Little and big at the end. Okay? It's like a horn. You want your least favorite, or least convincing, I should say. You want your least convincing argument first, and you gradually build until really at the end, your reader is convinced. Okay? So you've listed your 3 arguments of why you think the Earth should do a better job at recycling. Then you go through and you figure out, you know what? When I wrote these arguments down, I really think that the second argument is the strongest one. So I'm going to put that in paragraph 3. And I think this argument is probably the one that I can't support very well. I mean, it's a solid argument, but I'm afraid I don't have much support for it. So I'm going to talk about this one first. And this argument, I'm going to put in the middle because it's better than this one, but it's not as good as that one. So I'm going to put this one in the middle. okay? So that's how you decide what order